Hello, just wanted to clarify before the video starts that I used to be a game developer, that I work specifically with things related to private servers or people having the ability to create their own private servers with like universal assets provided by the game publishers. So I know what I'm talking about when it comes to my feedback on this. It's not just coming out of my ass, but yeah, I hope you find it interesting nonetheless. It might be like a bit technical at times, but it is what it is. This is more of an in-depth, I still like high level overview of the potential pitfalls or the expectations for the technology behind private servers in RuneScape. So enjoy and subscribe. Hey yo, so there is something called Project Zanaris. I happen to be super knowledgeable about user generated content, and RuneScape wants to head in this direction. So let's go over the news post and I'll give you my technical take on it, because the idea of being able to create your own private server from like a programming perspective is like not trivial whatsoever. This type of stuff, when I first heard about it, I was kind of skeptical. I was like basically calling cap if it's even possible. If not, then like at least like a 4-year timeline or something. So I'll talk about how I'm getting to this conclusion and what I'm thinking of as we read the post. Alrighty, so the old school RuneScape community servers. We'll take the old school RuneScape you know and love, tweak different elements to create a brand new gameplay experience. Do you want NPCs to deal 5 times the damage? You want everyone in Ultimate Iron Man? Or turn PvP on everywhere? All this and more will soon be possible. When I read something like that, I just like separate from the technical stuff. I'm genuinely curious if legally they could allow things like private deadman tournaments. You know what I'm saying? So, for example, if I make like a private server and I make it PvP centric, or with like a 1v1 deadman finale, and I put up like 5k USD on it or something like that, is that possible? Like, can we just do little tournaments like that? I am actually very curious, because if so, well, yeah, I don't know, it could be potentially interesting, because you gotta watch out for people that own the servers, like if they're scamming you or anything like that, or if they're just straight up rigging the event for clout. But that's like a way far in the future thing. Servers where you make the rules. You can also choose your creation, whether that be a small group of friends, your clan, or the whole community. Yeah, that's like a fun little idea. Players will be able to search and filter through lists of available servers and jump in wherever they like. Ultimately, Project Zanaris is a place where anyone can create and share an old school experience or play in someone else's. Okay. I'm just going to skim through this and see if there's anything else that is interesting. Project Zanaris is being looked at by an entirely separate team. That's really good to hear, actually. I was going to say something like this is not like 1 or 2 devs that just get to do it. This is like a whole team thing. At least like 4 people should be on this, and it will take a long time anyway. Project Zanaris, blah, blah, blah. Tweaking and modifying parameters. Oh, they've already spent 1 year establishing the tech behind it. Okay. So they've already made some progress, it sounds like, and they have like a proof of concept going on. Recent focus are modifying parameters that already exist in the game. That is not so inspiring for confidence, because what that is, it's kind of like when you're playing the game, and if I make a private server and it's like, okay, here's the parameter to turn on run, or like prevent run draining, or have like all teleports or spells not cost any runes. That sort of thing would be like a modifier or a parameter, or how much XP you get per point of damage, how much damage you can do. Those things are like parameters, but it's not the most technically complex of things I think of when I think of the idea of a private server. Ooh, and looks like they have some facts. Community servers are for anyone. Makes sense. How can I participate? From giving feedback. So when it actually releases, if it does release at all, I would be so down to stream like actually coding these up if they could be interesting, and I think that could be fun for you guys as well, but that's like a multi-year thing. Will there be any crossover? We're looking into allow you to copy your main game progress into the community servers, but this will be one way. Yeah, that makes sense. You obviously wouldn't want it to be a two-way thing. You would want it to be like a copy, if anything. What does this mean for limited time game modes like League and Deadman? Nothing. Yeah, obviously that means nothing. It's just like if you want to make your own kind of private League server, or like what the Deadman world should be, which is just like a copy of like all the buffs and sigils and stuff, then that's something you could probably be able to make yourself, which is cool. Will Zanaris be taking resources from the main game? They said that they have a separate team. Yeah, so that makes sense. Will these servers be subject to the same rules? They should be. Okay, yeah, and they are. And that's like, that might be like a legality thing, but it also just makes things very simple as well. I just wonder how they're going to be able to govern this sort of thing. Like, how do you manage to track real world trading in a private server that someone creates? Like, let's say a private server becomes so popular that their GP is actually like on the black market. Like there's 1,000 players that play it or something. How do you track if someone legitimately just buys in-game currency within that server? I don't think that's exactly trivial, but I don't know. I guess they'll cross that bridge if they come to it. Will there be any tools available for a server owner to moderate their world? Yes. Okay, that's kind of cool too. Like a global admin. Will anyone be able to play a server I create? You'll be able to choose a range of server sizes, which can lock you and your friends or open it up to a community. Please be aware, regardless who can access your server, the rules of RuneScape still apply. This is kind of like a question mark for me, because the idea of servers being free is like not a model I think that RuneScape will just, or Jagex will be able to satisfy, in the sense that if you rent a server for like 100 players versus like 2,000 players, the space that occupies on a hosting site like AWS, for example, like Amazon Web Services, that costs money to run a server. And I doubt they'll just be able to let literally anyone run a server for free. To do that, they would need to get like a benefit of some sort. For example, in Roblox, the benefit is that the in-game currency that you spend in a private server is taken from the main website's general currency. For example, in Roblox, if you create your own server and you want to buy like I don't know, like RS coin or something is the currency, you have to buy that with something called Robux, which is purchased like from the platform itself as a standalone general universal currency. So like 100 rune coins maybe is like 1 USD worth of Robux or something like that. Jagex could opt to do something like that, where if you want to buy an equivalent bond or equivalent currency, maybe there's a currency exchange where there's like an RS coin or something like that that they can then exchange within the game, and maybe people can profit share off of that. That would be ideal. That'd be a way to actually make RuneScape RuneScape into a profitable business model with user generated content. And that's why I'm going to refer to these private servers as such, because it's user generated private servers, so user generated content. It would make sense if that was the case. However, I feel like people would be so divided on that. I'm not even sure that would work out, but if that did work out, then you would actually have like a whole economy going on with private servers, and you could in theory just like take out the private server market, or at least stifle their growth, like the black market private servers. Could be interesting. How much will it cost to host a community server? We're still working on a full cost breakdown. Different server sizes will have varying price points. There will be a charge for players looking to rent the server from Jagex, but we intend to keep this cost in line with industry standards. Which makes sense, but if there's no ROI, like return on investment for the person who is renting the server, then I think this is not worth pursuing. Personally, in terms of just like a business strategy and like the investment you would put into this, because the incentive from someone like me, for example, if I want to create a server, like what I'm just like kind of doing it and spending like $10 a month for something to host a server, or I don't know, maybe it goes up to $100 depending on like how many servers you have, that sort of thing. It'd be nice to get some kind of ROI in terms of partnership with Jagex You can even do it like a premium subscription. So, for example, if you are a Spotify premium listener and you are listening to 100 songs a month or something, you can get premium subscription profit sharing as an artist. If, let's say, the person that is listening to 100 songs and paying Spotify $15 a month is half of their 100 songs are like to one specific artist or band, then that artist or band maybe gets like 20 or 30% of the monthly subscription that that person pays, the one that is listening to their work. I'm making those numbers up, but that would be like a typical model of premium profit sharing. And I think that you could definitely apply this here. For example, if someone pays for a RuneScape bond and increase the bond by $1, I guess, I'm not really sure what you would do. From Jagex's perspective, if I'm paying $15 a month for membership and I'm spending a third of my RuneScape time on one private server, then you can give like 10% of that 15 to the private server owner, and that would be like a kickback for incentivizing people to first of all rent the server in the first place, take a chance and pay for it, and then also like expand on it and keep updating it and making it more and more popular. Will there be any Web3 integration or NFTs or Project Zanaris? Fuck NFTs. So yeah, yeah, no, that's not how to play. Don't do that. Can I use one account on multiple servers, or do I need one for each? It's going to work similarly to log into the main game for your Jagex account, which makes sense. So basically, your one account that is bonded, it has this time split between the servers. You can't just like log into multiple servers. Will players be able to create their own quests, bosses, items, etc.? While we're keeping details about the future of Project Zanaris and their wraps, our goal is to fully embrace the sandbox experience that OSRS is celebrated for. Our goal is to enable you to develop your own creations and share those with the wider community. While this is some way off, we'll be exploring all avenues of customization. Yeah, emphasis on the while this is some way off, because from my perspective as a previous game developer that like specifically focused on things like UGC, there's like a lot that goes through my head that is promised when you come out with a title like Project Zanaris. And now after reading this, it seems to me like it's not going to be as hype as like, hey, this is like Desert Treasure 3 and I made it on my server, or this is like Raids 5 and I made it on my server with like a whole new continent, or like this continent shifted, or like these areas are different, that sort of thing. Or the idea of like creating an asset in like Blender, like a new tree or something like that, right? Or new monsters, new NPCs, that sort of thing, and then importing it into an editor so that it could be rendered in my private server. All that stuff sounds like it would be ways off, like 4 years type ways off after the first release. So yeah, I feel like this is just going to be like, hey, this is the private server, you get like increased XP rate, you get like drops, the drop tables could be different, and maybe like some areas are locked behind certain XP or tasks that you have to do, like a league system, something like that is how I feel they could do a first release, which is like not that crazy or exciting, honestly. When is Project Zanaris launching? Currently we're focused on testing, gathering feedback from players, as which we aim to expand more broadly next year. We'll be sure to keep you updated once we're ready to announce launch plans. Okay, yeah, so the thing is, so how I'm thinking of it is like there's an idea where you have like a website or an app or something, and then you're like, hey, let me just copy the main game over, and with parameters it's like, here's the XP multiplier, or this boss has an XP multiplier, or Scurious drops like a shadow, for example, or that sort of thing. And that's maybe the extent of which you're able to create your own private server, which is kind of like okay, but it's kind of interesting. Or maybe you have like a DMM final style type of thing. It would be impressive to me if the first release allowed you to schedule an event within the server. So for example, if you got to do like a DMM type private server, and then you had the server itself run on like a schedule where this is the end of the week, this is the automated tournament that I have programmed to set up within the private server, and it loops. I think that would be incredible if they released that something like that at a technical depth on their first release. I think it'll be a lot more chill, similar to what I said before about like rates, drop rates. The idea of like adding extra invocations to TOA. So anyone on Reddit who has fun ideas, right, about how different mechanics should be and stuff within the main game can be tested out in a private server. That would be cool. I'm not convinced that that will be available in the first release of this, but something like that could be a really cool application of private servers. Although, of course, it costs money to even host a private server in the first place, it seems. So if there's no incentive to host a server, as in like an ROI, I feel like this would be a very niche thing that isn't worth spending like for developers years of time to pursue, in my opinion. They have Jagex has a huge opportunity here, in my opinion, to take over the whole private server ecosystem by abstracting as much as the main game as possible so that people can make their own private servers on the side. The concern there is, does this divide the overall main RuneScape community? And I would say my take on this is it feels similar to third-party clients in RuneScape. So for example, if there were a bunch of third-party clients before with RuneLite and like OS Buddy and a bunch of other stuff, and then Old School basically killed all of them except for RuneLite due to community backlash. And then RuneLite became the preferred choice for people over RuneScape's vanilla client still today. And I think this will change in the future. If they announce anything about that, I could go over that as well if you guys are curious. But the current state of affairs is that the RuneLite client is just simply better, objectively and technically, than the vanilla client as it is right now. Of course, they didn't release their HD version, I don't think, or the stuff that they have working on. So I think that private servers, in terms of splitting the community, will be kind of similar, where if someone creates a private server that is just straight up genuinely better in terms of a playing experience than the main game, then you'll see people go to that product as a private server. And I think that is what I would expect in a free market within like this private server ecosystem. You come out with a private server and it's straight up better than the main game, then you'll see more people go to there. The thing is that private servers don't have established support for like infrastructure. So if servers go down or if you get targeted or something like that, you're going to have to rely on Jagex for that, right? And if you want to have that player support, you'll probably need like a whole team. Maybe there's going to be bugs or things that come up that you didn't expect. And for you to have a whole team, you probably have some money behind it. And without the incentive or integration of a kickback to the server owners as well as to Jagex, there is no incentive to grow a team behind a private server unless you're like a huge content creator and you're just doing like an event or you're doing some cloud stuff or something to that effect. So no, I think in the short answer from reading this, no, this wouldn't divide the community. However, if they monetized the concept and allowed like whoever to make money and split it with Jagex, then maybe. Still not anytime soon. Like that would be 3+ years probably, or at least maybe 1 to 3 years after the release of a completely abstracted private server model, which still in my opinion takes like 4 years to do. And now we're going to talk about that. What I had in mind when I first heard of Project Zanaris is not the rudimentary stuff that I just went over, but the more complicated version of like, hey, this is like terrain, like grass, you know, like like very low level concept like that. This is grass. This is the codified version of an NPC. An NPC attacks. An NPC can use mage, it can use range, it can have overhead prayers, it has certain attack styles, it's weak against certain styles, it can attack with other things, it can change forms or have a different health bar, like how Vedion goes from like purple to orange and it's like the same dude, or maybe it isn't the same dude. That sort of thing is an abstraction that allows people who are developers to come in there, use that abstraction of a coded NPC and be like, here is my custom NPC, here is like my Super Saiyan, or something else that's like medieval friendly, like this is my chainmail armor guard or something like that. And it has like its own little get up and all that. That's another thing too, is the assets are, I assume currently, only whatever is available in the main game would be something that you can use in a private server for an asset. So for example, you think of a guard in, no, they only exist in Falador now with the new UIs. So in Falador, you have like guards that have like iron chain bodies, right, and iron med helms and like a bronze sword and square shield. That stuff are those things are assets that exist already in the main game, and for you to create something completely new and different is a certain type of infrastructure that I don't think the old school team is prepared to handle, because as it stands right now, at least. Because for that, what you would need is you would need like an asset library of like, here's all the things that exist in the main game, which might not even be available to the developers internally. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Like I mean like stock assets for like the bronze square shield, you could just like toss that in. Maybe they just have to manually enter the ID. But if you want this to work for a consumer scale, so you make it work for the people that are creating the private servers, you would need an asset library. And similar to like the plugin hub on RuneLite, there should be moderation and a way for certain artists to also profit off of this, where if I have a really cool idea like wings or something that you can put on your character, then I can upload those assets, like the graphics, I mean when I say assets, like the graphics of it, and then anyone who has a private server can make an update by using that asset that I created, that I uploaded on like some kind of cloud space. And then at that point, you have another avenue for monetization, but you also have another problem for moderation, because you can't just let people post like nudity or other like violent crimes or that sort of thing depicted into your game. That's not good press. So there's like a whole can of worms that comes out with that idea. But if you were able to have people create their own assets, and I'm able to like create my own kind of boss, then I have the opportunity to create a completely brand new boss, like a nightmare type of thing. Something that no one's seen before, with potentially new different mechanics. And if I can import my own animations, then I just have a completely different experience within my private server. If you're able to get this idea, Project Zanaris, to that point where I can like create my own nightmare like boss, then you may have more interest diverging from the main game. If you're thinking of it from like a, will our main community still stay together overall in RuneScape? Because now you have a compelling product where here's a boss that's super cool, like a Zoro or something, that is not in the main game, and you can replay it, or you could just join the private server and play it, and maybe you'll have a fun time. Ultimately, these things don't carry to the main game though, so it's kind of like, if you're someone who cares about your main account progress, you don't still have incentive to try out these things. But that could be potentially super cool and interesting. Let's see, I'm thinking like if there's anything else I forgot. There's one more thing. To create private servers like that, where they're like completely unique AF, you need a robust editor. And the way that it works internally at Jagex, I'm not sure, but I am hoping that they have some sort of like a sandbox editor. And in code speak, when people say the word sandbox, they literally mean like this is like your enclosed box of like your local version of RuneScape, like as if you could download a version of RuneScape that isn't connected to the internet or something to that effect, and you can play around with it, change it, like your own copy of a private server effectively. Yeah, so when people have these sandboxes, I wonder if Jagex also has their own editor already for when they're like creating things. I'm so confident that they have a map editor, and I am equally as confident that they have their own local builds for creating different experiences in the game, like mechanically, like this is a new boss, or putting it all together. So then there's like a two-step thing that comes to mind of are they going to be able to abstract that to the main public? So can I, as a regular dude, just use whatever they're working with already? And what are the technical limitations or difficulties that are going on to create this primary abstraction so that I can use what they're using without them like leaking their own stuff somehow? And then there's a second thing of anything else that you make interesting or abstract has to also be put in this editor. For example, like asset management, like animation management, and things like scripts, like code, similar to how Roblox Studio does it. You would probably need all these things to have like a fully functional end stage Project Zanaris, in my opinion. But most likely what we'll get is just like, hey, you want to create your own server, this is like, these are the XP rates, these are the drop tables, and that's like pretty much it. And the continents are static. Maybe you can move stuff around in a map editor. Could be cool. Those are my thoughts on it though. I think that initially when this was pitched, I was like super hyped. After reading this though, I was concerned. And then after reading this, my hype is more like rational. And I think it will be just like not what it's living up to on release, but it will be extremely fascinating to see what they do after the first release if they decide to take it in this direction. It would be super interesting. Let me know what you guys think. I'm very curious. If you want, just leave a comment on your thoughts on Project Zanaris. Do you like it? Do you wish that they didn't do this? Do you have plans to do this? If there were interesting content on different servers, would you play it? At the very least, I think something that could come from these V1 servers is the ability to test our ideas without like needing to wait on Jagex devs to do it. I think that is super neat. So I'm in support of this, but I wouldn't be in support of this depending on how the first version went out, if it's worth putting more dev time in. We also don't know like their end goals for this, so they don't know either. So we'll have to see how it all plays out. That's it for me though. The next videos I'll make will probably be like more PVM style guides on like the Desert Treasure 2 bosses like Coliseum with Noxious Halberd, that sort of thing. That's it for me. See you later.